morning, and welcome to Vital Perspectives. I'm your host, Dr. Marwin Spiller, and we're here today with our guest, Ken Hinton, who is the Executive Director of the George Washington Carver Center. I'd like to start with some background information, let the viewers know a little bit about you. You grew up in Peoria, is that correct?
Yes, I was born and raised here in Peoria. I went to the Peoria Public Schools, Lincoln, Roosevelt, Manual. I got my first degree from Bradley University. Born and raised here.
Okay. And in your estimate, how have things changed for the better, for the worse here in Peoria since your time here growing up?
Things have changed for the better in regards to what it was like when I was a child, and that would be in the early 50s to the current time now. So I would say things are much better. When I was a child and lived over on 6th Street and I saw Ward Chapel I saw them tear the houses down and build Ward Chapel, it was really pretty much a neighborhood community. Mm-hmm. And the African expression that it takes a village, that is for people who were young here in Peoria in those early 50s. It was a village raising children.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And was the Carver Center here?
Oh, absolutely it was. Yeah, I think in 1949 I took my first piano lessons here.
Okay.
From Mrs. Washington, and oh yeah, it was here.
Okay. Mm-hmm. As a sociologist, I think about this community and its similarities to other communities that have had sort of strong manufacturing jobs back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and with the globalization of our economy, those jobs moving to other places. What toll has that had on the community in your sort of estimation of just the shifts in the American economy and its impact on?
As far as Peoria is concerned,
Mm-hmm.
It's had a dramatic impact on Peoria. One of the things that I did when I was young, I liked history, political science, and those types of things. I used to watch Peoria's population. Mm-hmm. And at the time that I was doing that, Peoria was the second largest city in the state of Illinois and had the second largest school district mm-hmm. in the state of Illinois. Once you started to have some of your major employers depart from Peoria, mm-hmm. Like Pabst, Westinghouse, just a number of them, mm-hmm. Hiram Walker's, just a number, the population stopped growing. There was a change in regards to the fluidity of people rising on the economic scale because of the opportunities were lessened. Mm-hmm. And then the school system no longer continued to grow. In fact, there was a decrease in the population, therefore with less students in school. So the departure of those types of experiences and opportunities have definitely had an impact on Peoria.
Mm-hmm. How do you think that the community today is responding to those changes, those economic changes?
Are you talking about the entire community or a portion of the community, the African American community, or the entire community?
That's a good point. Let's talk about the African American community.
It's had a tremendous impact on the African American community in the sense that with the changes of housing and the renewal effort, Peoria is not like it was when I was growing up. And an example of that would be how the neighborhood has changed. Mm-hmm. There was a community investment, I shouldn't say a neighborhood investment in your neighborhood in regards to safety for the children, mm-hmm. Cleanliness, mm-hmm. Looking out after one another. That has changed in the sense that, and then the other thing that is extremely important is that, and this could be national as opposed to not only being local, the importance of education. My parents were born at the turn of the last century. My dad was born in 1903, and my mom close to that. Education was critically important because of the fact that so many people of color were denied complete access to education, and individuals knew how, parents and grown-ups knew how important education was, and so it was stressed probably just about every day, and it was done that way across the community in regards to the importance of graduating from high school. That's changed. Youth of today take it for granted that the opportunities and the access that is given to everyone now is considered that's the way it's always been. That has not been the case. And so that's another market change in regards to how the community has changed. The stress on education has been greatly lessened. Another thing that has taken place in regard to the change in the community, and that is the responsibility for your children, in the sense that I couldn't go any place in this community without another adult having charge over me, and realizing that if 3 blocks away, which I shouldn't have been, if another grown-up saw me and I was doing something wrong, all they had to do was pick up the telephone or send a message to my mom or dad, and that was not a good thing. You did not want that to happen, and I'm sure that if you talk to individuals who are my age or a little younger or older, that was just the case. I mean, so that's changed in regards to responsibility and for your children, in the sense that not only you as a mother and father have responsibility for your child, but you ceded some of that responsibility over to other grown-ups in the community, so that the children knew that they were under charge of an adult, no matter where they went, what they were doing. And that's no longer the case. And like I said earlier, that could be not only, I said, locally here in Peoria, but across our country.
Yeah, I would agree that a lot of those things that you described are problems in a number of communities. To hone in on Peoria, what role do you perceive the Carver Center playing in sort of addressing, offsetting some of those changes that you just discussed?
Carver's role has not changed since its inception. A group, I think it was 3 or 4 African American women in 1918 that were a part of a larger national group of women of color who were looking out. They were looking out for the well-being of their community and people in general, specifically African Americans, but all people. Carver came about because of the fact that they saw that there were youth, mainly boys, black and white, who were on the streets after school, or possibly not even during school, even when school should have been in session. They were on the streets, and so what they wanted to do was provide a good moral place for youth, and to keep them engaged so that they would stay focused on education and being good citizens. That's almost 100 years ago. It has not changed. So the question is, what role do I see Carver? Even more so than ever, that role of the past needs to be reinvigorated. I ran into I was talking to Mr. Frank Campbell, not Mr. Campbell that was with the Tri-County Urban League, but Frank Campbell, who was the assistant director here at Carver for many years with Mr. Henry Harper, when they had the golden years, when Carver was really starting. I talked to him, and he told me, he said, He said, Ken, on any given day when school was out, there'd be 300 to 400 youth here at Carver. Now, if you've got 300 to 400 youth here at Carver playing basketball, being tutored, or in theater, or doing something constructively, they're not on the streets, are they?
No, they're not.
They're doing something that's keeping them engaged. And for those of us who know the most dangerous time for youth is between 3 and 8, when kids are out of school, they need to be occupied. And that is the role that Carver has to take in regards to being the difference that it has been for so many thousands of youth. Carver fell upon hard times in regards to some financial concerns which caused the programming to come to a standstill. And we're in the process of reinvigorating Carver so that it can do that. But what people don't understand about Carver is that Carver can only survive if the public basically provides the funding for Carver. We don't get money from the federal government. Carver does not receive state money. The money that Carver receives is either from donations, from sponsors, or contributions, or something to that effect. So the role that Carver has right now is by providing opportunities, experiences, and activities for young people and young adults and senior citizens to be positively engaged in their community by putting once more a group of very talented, skilled, committed, and dedicated and caring people in a place where when people come through the doors, they are validated, they are respected, they are loved, and they are encouraged to be the very best they can. I say that because of the reality that some of the names that in regards to Carver, like Mr. Harper, Mr. Campbell, Juliet Whitaker, who, as you well know, started Richard Pryor, Dorothy Cornish, Catherine Timms. These are all people that were at Carver when it was in its young beginnings, that have impacted thousands of people because of the interactions that they had with people here at Carver.
And how do we sort of preserve that history, that legacy, that mission, and make it relevant to young people? Because I agree that the needs are still there, but the generations seem to be different. The generations seem to have different things on their minds, different attitudes, ambitions, interests. I mean, do you feel like Carver is successful in connecting with that?
We're in the process of designing programming and then identifying personnel that would be able to implement and do what needs to be done as far as continuing the mission of Carver. So I'm an optimist. I've seen it done many times when individuals say it couldn't be done or the odds are against you. But in regards to youth and people, if you go to an activity or an experience and you are validated and you are genuinely, there's a genuine caring for that individual, people come. I mean, even though we don't have a lot of programming here, there's still a lot of activity, people coming because of the fact of that validation in regards to volunteers and so on. But that has to be spread out. What needs to take place right now is the information needs to be disseminated in such a way that, or given out or put out, that there are opportunities right now. For example, there's an ACT prep class in regards to preparing high school students to take the ACT test. And I know the position that Illinois has taken on it, but those things that they learn in this ACT prep class would be transferable to the SAT. We've got space for 8 high school students. I know that parents who are about ready to have their children go to college Some pay any place from $200 to $500 for 2, 3, or 4 exposures to prepare their kids for that. That opportunity is here at Carver. There's exercise, there's health. We're going to be doing some classes on chronic disease management. Currently, right now, there are cafes for parents on nurturing, it's called Nurturing Parents, and it's how to be a stronger parent, how to nurture yourself, how to nurture your children. And it's different in the sense that normally it's not talking at parents, it's talking with parents, realizing that it's a two-way street. I can learn from you and you can learn from me. So we have opportunities now that aren't fully being realized because we just, we haven't been able to completely focus on marketing and getting that information out.
Have the center been impacted by the current budget crisis in Springfield?
No. If you remember, I was telling you that we're not state funded, nor are we, do we receive federal dollars. We have not been, that has not had an impact on us as of yet. We do have one grant with another agency that is very strongly supported via the state. That program that we have might be impacted by that if something isn't done soon. But in general, no, that has not been the case.
Okay. And it sounds like you have been involved in this community for a long time, not just your involvement with Carver Center, but I suspect that you other areas of leadership. Are you hopeful that whenever you step down off the stage that there's going to be someone to step in your shoes?
You mean here at Carver? Yes, I would very much like that to be the case. I had started telling you about Carver and its birthing, and what I didn't tell you was that when I had retired from the school district, my wife had basically said to me, "You're not doing anything, so why don't you try to help?" And so I told her I would, but when I started doing the history of Carver, and I found out, even though I was coming here to Carver, only lived maybe at max 2 blocks from Carver, maybe 3 when we moved over on 6th Street. I didn't know. I didn't know how it came about. And it came about because of love for our fellow man and woman. And I told my wife, we can't let this go. We can't in this community cannot let this go because the history is so rich. And I'm born and raised here in Peoria, and I did not know this when proms and things were held at some of the schools, and our children couldn't go. Guess where the proms were?
Here at the Carver Center.
That's right. There's probably, if you go back probably from 1940 to the early 60s, and even going to the 70s and 80s, but mainly in the 40s and the 50s, if you were a person of color and you came to Peoria like Joe Louis, Jesse Owens, Paul Roberson, you came to Carver.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. President Obama, when he was a state senator, was here. It has a history so rich. One of the key partners, Dr. Martin Luther King, worked here. I could go on, and I said, we as a community don't know that.
And what do you think has to happen to get a younger sort of cohort of African American leaders or leadership to embrace that history, to extend that history? I mean, because certainly the baton has to be passed at some point.
Well, I think that's when you have institutions like we currently have now, where you learn from others. You give them the opportunity to experience those activities and those things that improve the quality of life for others. So you have to give them the opportunity to be exposed to those different kinds of things. An example of that would be Carver. I can't tell you, like Mrs. Davis, Irma Davis, and Percy, I mean, just a number of people who give of themselves to make it a better world. Well, there are kids and people around them that are seeing it, and they need those opportunities. Good things are taking place at Proctor Center in regards to what's taking place there. And, but their kids and youth have to have those opportunities. And one of the reasons that if you're a parent and your children are growing up in and they're saying, well, soon, I can't wait to get out of here. I need to go someplace else. Well, we as a community need to provide experiences and opportunities for our youth and future young leaders to stay. And we have to embrace them. And so my thought would be, I saw what other people were doing. When I was a youth, I saw what my aunt, Aunt Terry Valeska Hinton, Mr. Peoples, people who are 50 plus and know exactly what I'm talking about. Frank Campbell at the Urban League, John Gwynn. You see those people. And you see how they have given of themselves. My Uncle Jewel, there's a whole host of individuals, and forgive me if I didn't name everyone, but there's just so many people. I was at the event on Saturday, and Dr. Maud Sanders was the African-American doctor for much of the community, along with Dr. Ross. Dr. Sanders would come to your home. And so to answer the question, youth and young people need the opportunity to work, experience, and be with those who are actually going out and making this a better world.
So one last question, and if you had an unlimited budget here at the Carver Center, what are two to three things that you would do in dream projects to really push Carver's agenda to have the greatest impact on a lot of the social ills that are impacting Peoria's South Side?
I wouldn't need three things. I would just need one.
You just need one. Okay.
Just one.
What would that be?
One is and repeat. You repeat or you replicate the past. You put into one location a group of people who are focused on seeing all people rise and succeed. You identify those people. When we put the Early Childhood Center together, we developed an intake process that identified high-performing teachers and who were completely committed to the well-being of children. And we did a longitudinal study on those children that had been that had gone through the experience after 5 years, and the results are as it would be with any experience. You get a great coaching staff, you're probably going to have a good team. You get a school that is filled with inspired, skilled, and very dedicated and smart instructors. You're going to have high-performing students. So the one thing I would want is a staff that after we leave, because most of us are volunteers, we leave, is to replicate what we had before. I mentioned this woman because of the fact she's so ornery, Mrs. Timms, Catherine Timms. But before I did my research, I did not know Catherine was here. And for those of you that knew Dr. Cornish, Dorothy, you can't help but have good results. And for anybody who knew Juliet in regards to the art, you talk to the people that Juliet has worked with, and some of the individuals you know, and I won't tell you their names, but they're impacting this community right now. And then when you ask them about a mentor or who was important, it'll be Juliet. So you could go on and on. I'm sure if you were to talk to people at other social service agencies that give of themselves daily in regards to doing good things, they're going to tell you about someone, or he or she, that, so it would be people.
Okay, you want to put together a dream team.
That's a way of saying it, yes.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
exactly the way to say it.
Okay. Well, I wish you the best of luck. I have no doubt that you will put that team together even without an unlimited budget.
Well, I tell you what, we've got a great board. The board is outstanding that we currently have. The team that is assembled now, we're doing marvelous work. The infrastructure is just about completely been redone. So right now it's just raising the money so we can start putting that team together.
Okay, that's great. Well, thank you for joining us and agreeing to give up your time. We have been speaking with Ken Hinton, who's Executive Director of the Carver Center, and appreciate you for tuning in to Vital Perspectives with your host, Dr. Marwin Spiller. Thank you.
Thank you.